with it in the hood with it. Welcome back to the collective clips where you already know we get it in. But before we get it in, let's hit that like and subscribe button. Put your notification bell on all. Ding, so that way you're directed in the direction of the dope content I'm kicking. And I highly appreciate all the support, man. We're going up on this channel and it's all because of you. And for that, I can say I'm very humbled and I'm very appreciative, man. Thank you. I couldn't do it without you. So I wanted to tell you guys a story. And I've been hearing a lot about the buyback in, right? You know, a lot of people have been asking me questions, and that's why I wanted to do this video. Can you buy back in as a Norteño? Can you buy back into the fold after you've dropped out, backed up, became non-active, went and functioned on an S&Y yard, a 50-50 yard, debriefed? You know, there's a lot of different things and different courses or different levels that people do when they fall off, when they fall back. You know, some people drop out, or it's not really drop out. If you're a dropout, you're considered from the big four, right? So, but that's the loose term that everyone throws around. So we're just going to run with that for today. So if you drop out of the gang, if you decide that it's not for you and you're from Northern California, you know, then you're considered no good. You're considered a piece of shit. You're considered a rat, a weirdo, all kinds of different things. And you may not be that, but at the end of the day, that's because you're a turncoat. You've basically left the group that not depended on you, but felt that you were a brother. You were one of them. And so it's kind of like leaving your soldados behind. You know, I could equate it to being in a war and leaving a soldier that's wounded behind. You know, especially when you're needed. In the northern cause, you're very needed as a Norteño because the numbers are less, okay? Less than other groups. And that's just the way it is. So, you know, there's a lot of people that have fallen off. I think in the 2000s is when it started. You know, it took flame and it just went, right? People just started to fall back. Now, there's a thing that's been going on lately, right? It's been going on for the last few years. It's called the buyback in. Are you allowed to buy back into the cause, right? And the answer is simple. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I haven't seen it happen a lot, but, you know, I was approached, you know, back before I started YouTube, I was actually approached. Absolutely. And also, I'm going to tell you guys a story about a sex offender that's for somehow, some way was able to buy back in. Now, albeit his case was very flimsy and not good, and I'm going to tell you that story right now, but it's the actual fact to this day, and I'm not going to mention his name, and he is even on Megan's Law. He is right now on Megan's Law. If you look them up, there he is on Megan's Law for a statutory rape case, yet he is an active Norteño functioning within the household, functioning within the fold. How that was able to be facilitated, I wasn't there, so I couldn't tell you, but it's the truth, right? So let me tell you about when I got approached. So when I was done, when my career was over, when I was no longer in good standings, I still had parole to do. Okay, I still had parole, and that meant I couldn't leave my county without authorization from my parole officer. I couldn't just move, get out of the state. I couldn't do none of that. I had to wait for 3 years. This is back when they were giving you 3 years solid, 36 months. You had to serve every bit of that, you know, on the streets. If you fucked up, you caught a violation, guess what happens? It started all over again. I was catching violation after violation. So my 3 years extended to like 6 years, then 7 years. It just kept on going. And that was because I was fucking up. You know, and a couple of them times I caught violations for red shoelaces, man, and some white and blue shoes, red, white, and blue. Well, guess what? I wasn't allowed to wear the color red because that identified with my gangs. Even though I was no longer active and in the mix, and my pro officer knew that, they felt like, because there's a lot of people that drop out or that fall off, and then they get out and they do the chameleon. Now they want to start dressing the part as a homie again. Red Chucks, red Ben Davises, red Cortezes, all that, you know. I mean, I'm sure it happens on the southern side as well. You know, vatos that are not in good standings for whatever reason, whether it was a drug debt or they just decided they wanted to change or they found the Lord or they snitched on someone or they debriefed or whatever. For whatever reason they fell off, there's a lot of different reasonings. Doesn't mean they're punked, but at the same time, they chose that life. They got to deal with it. You make your bed, you lie in it, no matter what, right? So in dealing with myself, I had 3 years to give them on parole, meaning I had nowhere to go. And I didn't have a lot of money. When I paroled, I didn't have a good job. I had skills to do things in the metal industry, which is the industry I'm in now, but it was hard to get a job with my record, but I didn't take no for an answer. I kept on striving, kept on pushing because I knew I'd get a job. So I eventually got a little job at the Dole factory or the Dole company. It's between Atwater and Merced. Everyone works there. Almost every single person there was on parole, or you were a paisa, or you were on parole. Period. That's just how it was. So you'd run into a lot of actives, non-actives there. There has been fights. There has been little melees, north and south, because you had the Southsiders from Atwater and the Norteños from Livingston and Merced, Los Baños, Planada. So this is my county shit, right? So it was like going to a little mini yard at that job. You never know if you were going to get hit, removed, whatever, man. But there was a lot of guys from my body that were non-active and a lot of guys that were active. And we coexisted, man. You know, we didn't have a junta, but when we seen each other, those that were about the business, they already knew what it was. You know, we all grew up together. We knew who would fight and who wouldn't fight, who would stand 10 toes down for their fucking beliefs. So I remember running into a homeboy. He was super active. Me and him, man, we went way back. This was the homie. And he knew what time it was with me. He knew the situation. So he was kind of like, look, bro, we ain't going to do nothing at work. I mean, if you feel some type of way, you can get off. And I was like, man, you do your thing, I'll do mine. We'll keep our distance, but at the same time, you know what it is. Then I had an active homeboy. We used to sit there and eat lunch together every day, man. He didn't give a fuck about none of that. He said, if any of the homeboys get at me, it is what it is, right? So you're going to have all that different shit going on. I, myself, I'm going to be honest with you, man. There was a gang of upstate Southsiders that were on my crew. I hired all of them because I became a boss there. And straight up, man, you know, those were the fellas that I kicked it with. Just because I could identify with them, I was cool with them. And that's just the way that it worked out, man. To be honest with you, I was from up north, but I was cool with the guys from down south. So whatever the case may be, doing parole, and because I didn't have a lot of money, I lived in the ghetto. Right in the west side of Merced, where it was dangerous being in my situation. But again, man, there's a lot of individualism and a lot of shit that goes on when you're a dropout or you're considered no good. If there's homeboys that you grew up with from the past, if they're feeling some type of way and they're super functioning in the regiment or with the activities, and they might try to set you up and get at you. It's happened plenty of times, right? But then there's situations where, hey, if you're not posing a threat, you're not poisoning people, you're not, they don't see you as a threat, they're just going to leave you alone and let you live your life. If they see you out there trying to fake it and trying to gangbang and all that, they're going to get at you in a violent and vicious way. But if you're just living your family life or whatever, you know, they're going to leave you alone. Now, the youngsters were a little different. If they found out or heard about you, then they might come fucking shit bomb your house or try to light it on fire or do some weird shit. It was never no one-on-ones or fades or nothing like that. You know, I was approached several occasions. I was approached to Livingston. I was approached to Merced a few times. Nothing really ever came of it. There was a couple little things I got into, little skirmishes. But other than that, you know what I'm saying, no weaponry was pulled. It wasn't like that. It wasn't that serious. So I'm doing my parole, and one of the homeboys gets out the feds. Okay, now about this time, man, is just when the Black Widow operation thing had happened. So the feds and the guys who were the generals of the NF at that time, they went to federal prison, and then there was a split. There was some discrepancies, and they were incommunicado, and there was a lot of shit going on. I was still in the loop just because I had homeboys that were still functioning, you know, as norteños, so I knew what time it was. So they kept me in the loop, but anyways, I wasn't really paying attention to it. I was trying to take care of my kids and my old lady at the time and do my fucking thing. And so the homeboy gets out the feds, and he's a real good friend of mine. Very good friend of mine, man. So, you know, he starts to call and question me on what happened, bro. Give me the full rundown. And he wants to know. And I could tell by the way he's inquiring, he's feeling some type of way. He was like, damn, bro, you're the homie, this and that. You know, we can't be seen together just based on, he was doing his high power shit, but at the same time, behind the scenes, he was like, damn, bro, you know, how does it feel to be a civilian? How does it feel, you know, that you're no longer in the gang? And I'm going to tell you the truth, the honest to God truth. I was kind of disappointed in myself, but even more so than that, I was missing the homies. I was missing the canalismo, kicking back, going to the hood, chilling, knocking on the homeboy's door. What's up with it, right? Knocking chicks, doing all the shit that gang members do. I was missing it, but I knew it wasn't for me. I knew in order to grow as a person, I had to elevate. I had to hit a different level in life, a different level. But I'm not going to lie, man. I think anybody that was part of something for so long and that's all you know, you miss it. You got to understand, I started as a 9-year-old kid in the gang, you know, caught my first case, my real first case at 11, went to the youth authority, got out at 18, proceeded to be in and out of fucking jails, prisons, always functioning with the homeboys, always going to the block, always active, you know, so that's all I knew. And I knew a lot more, you know, when people say, well, that's all I know. No, we know a whole lot more, but that's all I choose to care about that I knew, you know? So anyways, he starts to get at me. So one day he gets at me like, hey, bro, trip out. You ever thought about buying back in? And this is the first time I had ever heard that. And I'm like, what do you mean buy back in, bro? The fuck you mean? I can barely fucking buy groceries. You know, unless I'm getting food stamps, I'm struggling at the end of the month. He said, look, bro, if you can come up and hit a lick for about 10,000, bro, I can get at the right gente in the feds and you could be cleared. And I was like, well, how does that work, bro? You know, I was on 50-50 yards. I was, I functioned around people that fucking were not in the best of standings, people that had bad cases. You know, I didn't kick it with them. He says, oh, I know you weren't functioning like that, kicking it with them. I said, no, I kept my distance from everyone. But at the same time, you know, how's that work, bro? That goes against all the morals and the beliefs that was instilled and was indoctrinated when I was educated, you know? We didn't function with non-actives. We didn't fucking function with people with weird cases on the yard. We didn't walk them type of yards. We didn't do that. So how am I able to be cleared of all that? And he says, money talks, bro. At the end of the day, as long as you didn't go on stand and point fingers at people and do all this and that, you know, I can clear you up, bro. And even then, there's some cases where people have been cleared. You know, it's all about money at the end of the day. And I was realizing that. And that only pushed me further away. And I'm going to tell you why. Not that I didn't have love for the North End and love for the cause, because I always will. Even to this day, I got love for the homies. But what made me realize was that everything that I believed, the hardcore part of it, what I struggled for and I strived for, you know, about being an individual and being different or being part of something that we considered ourselves elite and different, it wasn't that for me. You know, I'm not saying it's not that for anyone else. I'm not trying to poison anyone or turn anyone against the cause. I'm just saying I realized, you know, I don't need to do all that, you know. So, but I was extended that olive branch if I wanted to come back. And at that time, man, I wasn't hearing too much about people buying back in, and I was real skeptical about it. So what happens? My slate's just clean and I'm good, and none of the homeboys that have been fucking stalking me or hunting me or calling me a piece of shit are going to trip anymore. Now all of a sudden I'm going to be invited to indulge in the reindeer games. And I felt like, you know, just being smart like I am, that I would be put on frontline status, utilized as a crash dummy to do pegadas and hits. And you know, people that are really striving and want to come back hella bad, you know, and there's those I've seen do it, man. They do it in subtle ways, right? They still show that love, or they pick sides or choose sides, right? They're willing to do anything. And these people know that. So they'll utilize them until eventually they get into a fucking situation where they crash out and then they're not good again. And guess what, man? Your 10,000 just went down the toilet. Now I've heard it's less money now and there's different ways to buy back in. I've also heard that, you know, people from these non-active dropout gangs are being cleared and being brought back into the fold. I don't know if that's true. That's just what I'm hearing. So anyways, I wanted to tell you guys a story about a sex offender. An actual sex offender on Megan's Law who bought back in righteously. So I've known this guy my whole life, right? Since I was a kid. Looked up to him. He was older than me. He was a homie. You know, I remember he was one of those homies. He was always in the mix. He kicked it with another homeboy. They were like best friends. Sold all the dope. Had all the dope cars. All the bad chicks. Like, these were our role models. We were like, damn, we're trying to be like him. The homeboy's got it going on. He's got the Cuddy on Go ones. He's got the fucking major beat. He always pulls up with hella chicks in the car, all fine. And of course, the chicks are with him because they're loving his wet paint on his car. And he was just having jewelry, money, all the superficial things that as a kid, you look up to like, damn, so that's what it is to be from the barrio. Not realizing they don't lace you up on the hardship, on the going to prison, the not getting no canteen, the being in the hole, the doing pegadas on the yard, stabbing people, getting stabbed, being involved in riots, you know, being in yards where there's only 2 or 3 of you and it's nothing but 150, 200 of the opposition, and you have to fucking stand your ground, you know. A lot of these things you're not told. I started to realize this when I was in the youth authority, exactly what time it was, right? So anyways, the homie, when he was young, so at this time I'm real little, so he was in his 16, 17 years old, but he seemed older to me, right? Already driving and all that. He has an old lady, and his old lady was 16 at the time. He was 17. It's about normal, right? He's a year older, whatever. And then, of course, they're together for a long time, and everybody knew they were together, and it was okay. It was whatever. He went to school with her. Cool. He got a little bit older, and he was in the dope gang, for reals, like really, really in the dope gang. He started to elevate his status within that game, and he was from the barrio tough. And so what happens is the chick's dad was a dope fiend. And this was when in Merced, man, everybody knows the crack game was on fire. Everybody smoked that shit. We used to smoke yaks. You know what it is, right? Cabbies, yaks, or whatever, all day long. That was our thing, and our hood was known for having all the yay. So it wasn't like ridiculous to see a homeboy pull up with a couple zips in his pocket. That was like normal. Everybody at the party fucking had gay on them. That's how the vaudeville was. So anyways, he's doing his thing. He's kind of introducing that to the streets right there. And he's taking care of his father-in-law, his girl's dad, serving him all the time, giving him free dope just because, that's the father-in-law. Well, eventually it becomes a point where it's a little too much. This guy's a dope fiend, crackheads, they never stop. They're up, they're on, they're always lit, they're always up, right? And he keeps getting at the homeboy, and it's starting to affect the homeboy's pockets. So the homeboy's like, hey, bro, I can't fuck with you no more. He cuts him off, right? And in doing so, the homeboy had just turned 18. He was a couple months 18. His chick had just turned 17. So nobody was tripping on that. Yeah, I mean, back in the days we're young, I was locked up in the youth authority at this time, but I heard about it later, right? I had already caught my murder case, and it was what it was, but we weren't, homeboys weren't tripping on that. Like, fuck, they've been together for years. It is what it is, He can get that shit cleared, if anything. And so the dad gets mad and tells the mom, and they go down and they report him for statutory, right? And of course, because he was in the gang, he was well known in the gang. Back then, they used to give us these gang cards in my town, man, that you were a validated, documented gang member. You had to have your gang card on you. When parole or probation or even the gang task pulled up, they were like, hey, you got your gang card on you? Now, I've been told a lot of people didn't have that, like in the Bay Area, LA, they didn't have that. But in the Valley, in Merced, we had gang cards. You had to have them on you. If you didn't, if you were on parole or probation, that was a violation. The cops would snatch you up. They take you to the police station, take pictures, all that bullshit, right? So anyways, this Valter gets snatched up. And because he's so high, he's notoriously known. And because he's so high priority by the gang task force, they decide to fuck him hard, right? Like Wes Watson shoving his hand up his asshole. They decide to ram it, right? And they charge him. Now, of course, when he gets charged, they separate him from all the homies. He's 18 years old, so now it's his first time going to county jail. The homies are on the block at this time. He's separated. He's kept up front, basically in protective custody. And even though he wants to go down to the block, he doesn't know no better. He's not been in and out of jail. He thinks this is just where they house him. He understands he has a bad case. So it's kind of like, wow, he's going to fight it. Well, what happens is there's no homies there to lace him up, to get at him, to tell him what's up. And this is pre all the pegadas and people getting removed. It was a lot looser. The structure wasn't really implemented in the program like it is now. So homeboys would have been able to get at him like, look, bro, we know that's some bullshit, man. This is how you fight the case. He would have got some help. But because he was young and didn't get the help, and I'm not making excuses for him. This is the absolute truth, right? Because he didn't get the help, he didn't know no better, and his truck-ass public defender pushed him into a plea bargain. So I know myself, if I'm charged with any type of weird case, a sex case, anything, and I know I'm innocent, bro, I'm fighting that shit to the caja. Let's go. Win, lose, or draw. We're going all the way. And hey, I don't care where they put me. Every time I'm coming out of the cell, I'm taking flight. I'm standing 10 toes down for mine. I'm beating up every sex offender they put me around. I'm just doing my thing. Why? Because there ain't no way I'm going to be found guilty of this shit. I'm going to at least ride it out to the honeycomb, hide it out. I'm going to fight it because fuck that, right? When you take the deal, you're basically admitting guilt. And it's done. It's a wrap. So he admits guilt and gets some probation and time served. Gets out on the streets. Homeboys know what's up. But he was getting the pass for a lot of years. He was getting the pass because, first of all, he was a knockout artist that'll put you on your pockets quick. So there was a lot of homeboys intimidated by him. But even more so than that, he was the type of individual that still hung around the vaudeville, still hung around the hood. But every time he got locked up in the county, he would go non-active. And I always questioned that, like, how was he able to do that? But people would always like, nah. But he was my homeboy. Like I said, he was one of my closest homeboys' brother. And he was a good homie. So anyways, I knew what time it was. Everyone in the hood knew what it was. It was just other Norteños that ran into him. All they seen was what it was. Well, he had to register as a sex offender. Megan's Law, right? So if you really Googled his name, but back then, nobody was really like fucking Googling your name and checking up on you. He ends up going to prison. Goes to the feds. Catches a Fed case. And gets out after a few years. I don't know how he was able to facilitate that, what place they put him. But I remember always thinking when he was in the feds, because I had got out by this time, like, damn, bro, is the homeboy going to be safe? Because he got some bad charges back in the days. And it always became back in the days. No big deal. And he still hung around the hood. But there was plenty of times we went to county and he locked it up in county, or he went to the non-active side. And then he would get out and still hang with the homies. Now, some of the younger homies felt a certain way. The OG homies didn't, because we knew that basically he got dicked up. His program got fucked, right? So it doesn't matter, okay? He still admitted to a weird case. Whether he did it or not, he's on Megan's Law, man. That's just the way people feel. it was a statutory rape, I thought. Okay? So one day I go on Megan's Law. I'm looking it up, man. This is recently, right? I'm looking it up and I'm looking for the statutory shit, right? And that's not what pops up on this shit. It's forcible shit, right? And I'm like, okay, all right, I never knew this. See, this is something I never knew. I was always told this story and I kind of ran with it. Never Googled it because that's back then. I don't even know Google was around like that. Never really tripped. So now I see it and I'm questioning like everything that I've ever done with the homie, how I backed his play on certain situations. Like, damn, bro, I'm a piece of shit for that. This dude really fucking did some hardcore shit. Come to find out, that was not even the trip. Yeah, he beat that statutory, but he had some other shit with someone else, right? All right. So at this time, I'm no longer active, so I'm not in the mix like that. I figure he's not active, whatever, you know. If I ever see him or run into him, then I'll ask him about it, most definitely. But I'm not gonna rock the boat. It's not my business, you know. I'm a family man. So then my homeboy goes back to the feds, not him, but his brother. And he becomes somebody in the feds, right? He gets made and he becomes, you know, part of a prison organization. And so he gets out and he gets caught up in a mix. And I get a hold of him just to check on him. Like, hey, bro, you all right? What's going on? I heard you got out. It's been a minute. And it's all love. You know what it is. And by this time, I've already moved out of state. I'm already living a different life, working and whatever, right? And kicking it with tortas every night, just boning the shit out of them. Just having it my way. Burger King shit. Sheila. Burger King, right? And so he's like, yeah, bro, I'm out here doing my thing. I'm setting up this and setting up that. He's like, hey, my brother he's good. I go, what do you mean he's good? And he was like, yeah, I bought him back in. So he basically bought him back in for less than what they wanted me to buy back in or were asking me years ago, right? He bought him for some change, right? And I was like, well, how does that work? Now, I didn't ask his brother, well, how does that work with his sex case and all that? Because I didn't even know if his brother knew about the forcible shit. You know, and I didn't want to cause no chaos. You know, his homeboys are real close. They're both friends of mine, but the brother, man, that's a real close friend of mine. So I was like, whatever. So I didn't believe it. So I got at another homeboy, and he was like, yeah, bro. Oh, the homie's solid, bro. He hangs around with all the homies. They look up to him and everything. And I was like, what the fuck? So I told that homeboy, you ever Googled him? He's like, Charlie, bro, we all know about the case. And I said, just Google him. I didn't want to smut him up, but I was like, And the homie calls me back immediately, right? He says, no. I said, no, you know what I'm saying? Go chill, bro. You know what I'm saying? The canalismo is real. I said, but, you know, it's crazy because this is an individual, man, who I backed his play on many times, man. Fought homeboys on behalf of his credibility and his word. And I was wrong, man. I was totally wrong. And I didn't know it. And he smiled in my face, right? And then when I started this YouTube shit, doing my thing, I knew part of this thing with YouTube was my face would be known. People would know me. And I've had threats. I've had people get at me. I've had people mail letters to my mom's old home and, you know, with derogatory things, threaten my kids and my family. And I've had people run up and I've had people shake, you know, some people hate me. Some people love me. Some people shake my paw. Some people mug me. You best to catch me. I'm coming smebbing in 2006, 2007, right? I was doing my thing. But, I understand that once I got on YouTube, people were feeling some type of way. I'm the most hated in Northern California. I'm the villain, right? Even though I try to toe the line and not speak on certain things I shouldn't, it just is what it is. You know, I'm considered the only dropout on YouTube, period. Everyone else, I guess, is good. Even those that aren't. It's weird, right? But I'll run with it, whatever. You know, it's because I get views and it's because I got a lot of subs. That's why I think I'm hated on a lot. But regardless of that, man, I think every man is the same. You know, if you're in the same boat, you're in the same boat, no matter how you got there. So, you know, it's true. It's true. Even with this guy's sex offense of statutory, they don't even know his real shit, right? He was able to buy back in and function. So how's that possible? How is it, even now that I'm hearing that guys that are part of dropout prison gangs that have disrespected the cause, that have went against the grain, that are considered the number one threat to the cause are able to buy back in, that shows not a lack of character, but that shows like basically a need. You know, when you're willing to go to that level, you need people that you really don't need, you know, like it's thirst. And, you know, I've always been enlightened. I've always been educated into the North End. I could say, man, it's a righteous movement. And I don't know if what I'm hearing is true and correct, but I know a lot of people are saying it. But I do know for a fact, man, that a sex offender somehow, some way was able to buy back in. And that's always tripped me out. You know, I'm not saying that that's what the Norteños do. They allow that. I would never say that. But in this guy's case, man, he was. Maybe it was just some homeboy favoritism. Maybe the bag was right. I don't know. Again, man, I know on my level, like I said, I was approached to buy back in. I said no. I know people who have. And I know now, man, that's not even the case. You know, I'm considered the worst of the worst, I guess, even though there's motherfuckers that are in Megan's Law that are doing their thing. With that being said, I hope that you move smooth with a purpose. Get everything that you want coming. And remember, at the end of the day, it's all about the struggle to strive, the strive to struggle. I'm going to continue to tell my stories and do what I do, man. And I'm not doing it to be negative or to hate or be mad because he was able to buy back in and I'm not. It's just, I question it. You know, I always did. And I thought it was a good story to tell. The gun.